This is the Expanding Boundaries podcast.
Do you feel trapped? Stuck in a world of mediocrity, constrained by bad habits, limiting beliefs, and feeling unfulfilled? Do you feel that deep down you know you were destined for much more? In Expanding Boundaries, you'll discover how you can break free and step into your real life, a life without limits. And now, here's your host, Michael McLeish.
Hello again, and welcome back to the Expanding Boundaries podcast. I've got an exciting show today. I've got a good friend and fellow entrepreneur, Kyle Miller, joining us on today's episode. And Kyle and I have known each other for, I think, about 3 years now. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so, Mike.
Yeah. All right, great. So he's from Charlottesville, Virginia, and I'm going to let him dive into some more details of how he got from there to where he is now, back in Charlottesville. He's a crypto investor into the cryptocurrency. I think you were actually one of the people that got me into crypto, but definitely behind the scenes got me into it. And you work from home. You're a real estate investor, and you love traveling. You're married. You've got 2 kids, and rumor has it you've got another one on the way here any day now.
Absolutely, yeah. It's we're playing. We're rolling the dice, trying to figure out which day he's coming. But literally, it could be tomorrow. That's how close we are. So it's exciting times, definitely. You know, I appreciate you having me on, and yeah, love to chat.
All right, let's do it. So, do you have a pool going for the day that the new one's being delivered?
We have a family pool. Yes, we do. We go. All right, what day is he coming? So I think right now, out of like the 10, I think there's everybody thought it was going to be before October. So it's getting close. Getting close.
Absolutely. That's exciting times for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, congratulations in advance. Probably by the time this airs, we'll be on the other side.
Let's hope so. I know my wife wants that to happen.
I'm sure she does. Oh my goodness. You said you moved back into Charlottesville right now, and I don't want to get ahead of myself. I want to get into the story of how you ended there. But how long have you lived there since you moved back?
So I grew up in the Charlottesville area. So just outside of Charlottesville, it's a small town in a small little city in central Virginia, right up on the Blue Ridge Mountain. Grew up here, left, went to go to college in Fairmont State, had a Division II scholarship to play football up there. So went and played there, also played a little baseball there as well, and finished up that. And when I was there, I studied kinesiology, and I thought I wanted to be a strength and conditioning coach. And through that process, I had got a graduate assistantship at the University of Memphis. When I graduated Fairmont, I went to Memphis and started working there. And I spent, the first semester doing that job. And I could see the writing on the wall that this was not for me. A passion of working out, lifting, getting stronger, enjoying that turned into a job. And that just really, I couldn't do it anymore. That was not something that I could see myself doing for the remainder of my life. I just remember sitting in the office there and just looking and going, can I do this every day for the rest of my life? Like, I would just sit there in the question and listen, and the answer was no. Like, we had to get out of that thing. It was like, no way we could do this. I was up at 4 a.m. and for the first workout was at 6. I had to be there at 5 and get everything ready and get all the guys in and out and doing that kind of stuff. And I was like, yeah, this is not what I want when I see myself at 35, 40 with family, kids. That lifestyle leads to a lot of moving. A new coach comes in, you're fired, you're out, boom, to the next job. I mean, it's almost worse than the military, how many times you move.
Well, I've never heard of that type of, I haven't really been in that world, but it is a graduate assistantship. So what does that really mean? What's the day-to-day? I'm starting to guess by what you're saying there, but can you give the listener here a little bit more context?
So a graduate assistant in the strength conditioning world, I was basically a coach. I was a coach and a student. I had to do all the work. And that was kind of like a scholarship, right? They paid for my schooling, and then I had $600 a month is what they would pay me in a paycheck for doing the work, but the school came free. So that's what a graduate assistantship was. Mm-hmm. And they call them GAs for short. So if you're ever in the sports world, that's what you'll hear. So that's what I was doing, and I realized that was not what I wanted to do for the rest of my life.
I gotcha. Okay. How long do you think you were in
I was
that
three
world?
months,
3 months in.
in that world, right, where I was working with the student athletes, coaching them. I coached the women's soccer. I had the whole team. I wrote out workout plans for them.
Mm.
I had the men's pitchers on the baseball team, and then I worked with football. So those are the three teams that I worked with. And you're there creating plans, working with the students, and getting them in shape, getting them working out, and getting them top athletic performance to put on the field and go.
Mm. And all the way up until that 3 month point, you thought you were on your way. This is what you had set out to do.
Yeah, I was like, man, I really liked working out. I really liked pushing myself. I liked being around people that push themselves. I enjoyed it immensely. I loved working out. It was just I'd come home and that's what I'd be doing, going to work out,
Yeah.
going to lift, and always trying to get stronger. And then when it became a full-time job, I wanted to do nothing. I wanted to get out. I was like, this, I can't do this. And so I sat back and I looked at like the top coach, the top strength and conditioning head coach, and I looked at his life and I go, okay, if I stay in this position, and I wasn't just basing it just based on him. I'd had experience with a couple other of those guys now, and I'm really starting to pay attention. Like, is that like if I had a choice, is that the lifestyle that I would pick?
Mm-hmm.
Was that what I would do? And the answer was no. And so I was like, well, I got to do something else because
Wow.
I want kids. I want them to have a stable life, right? I don't want to have to move every time you get fired, or sometimes those guys move every year. That's how quickly things change for them, and so that's not what I wanted. So I was looking at what can provide me, what can bring in money for me, and what can I be successful with. The only other thing I knew was real estate. My stepdad was a real estate broker, and so I came back and started working with him.
Okay. Now, let me ask you, like you went through that, like, oh no, this is not what I want. Did you know, the lifestyle that you wanted at that point, or was that shock of reality of what this career path is looking like down the road? Did that force you to sit down and build what you really wanted, or what did that look like for you?
Yeah, when I was looking at it, I wanted lifestyle. Like my whole thing was, and I've said this since I was in high school. I want to do what I want to do when I want to do it, and nobody's going to be able to tell me no. That's what I wanted, right? And being a strength conditioning coach, being in that world, all three of those do not check the box of what I wanted, right? I always had somebody telling me what to do. I couldn't do what I wanted. I couldn't like, hey, I need to go make this happen because it was so structured in the time frames of you have to do this, you have to do this, and the whole year's built out that way. And now you're on the same schedule as everybody else, and you got your couple weeks off in the summertime, right? But then you're back at it, working at it again, and that's not what I had in plan for my life.
Okay. So you took a step, you put that on pause, and you went and got your real estate license.
Yeah. Actually, I burned that bridge, man. I was out. I was like, I can't do this. I'm never coming back. I knew when I left, I was never going back.
Okay. So
And
what
then,
you just
I got in.
basically said, I'm out and I'm going to go do this other thing.
Yeah. And my girlfriend, my girlfriend at the time, she was like, whatever you want to do. And so it's just like, I just want you to be happy. Just make sure that you enjoy what you do. And so I came back into real estate. I had been in a little bit of construction. Take you back into like high school. I worked on some construction stuff.
Okay.
And in the summer times, I saw the agents walk around and show a house, and I'd be like, how much did that person make? 3% off of that house? It's like, wow, I'm sitting over here swinging hammers and doing all that stuff. I didn't make that. And so I transitioned. That's what kind of drew me to the real estate agent stuff. Then I got into the real estate game and I started, selling a couple. I got it in 2009, so it wasn't the best time to become a real estate agent. There weren't a ton of houses selling at the moment, but I got in, I got to see it, and I saw guys starting to flip houses. I never really understood that world, or it never even crossed my path that was available to do. And so I just watched some of these buyers that would buy houses and then turn around and sell them. This would go, I got in real estate in 2009. My first house flip was in 11. So I watched that for 2 years. Right. And I saw, okay, that's what he did. That's what he did. This name of this flipper would just keep popping up. Oh, Argent Developments, this one, that one, another LLC. I was like, what are these guys doing? Oh, they're buying and selling, flipping houses. Oh, wow, that's interesting. But and I started looking at what they're buying them for and what they're selling them for, and I'm like, and I knew kind of what construction costs were, and I was like, wow, this is a little crazy. So I got into, all right, how do I flip houses, which led me to wholesaling houses and then marketing and just kind of snowballs from there. But I just taken one step down the path and it grows.
I love
And
that.
and I saw how the freedom that you could have in this space. I saw that if you built it right, you could have what you wanted. You could go on vacation. You could have the nicer house. You could have the nice car. You could have this. Now, whether you want it or not, but you could have it. You had the ability to go do it, right? And you just have to keep building the skills. The first house I did was in 2011. I got a loan from my mom and bought it. I did all the work on the house myself. Most of it. There was a couple of things that I had to hire out. It took me, 6 months. Ended up selling it for $30,000 less than I thought it would sell for. And I made $3,000 on that deal.
Woo.
And I didn't pay myself for any of the work. So I made $3,000 during that whole entire process. But I learned a lot. And so, that I will never forget that. That was an experience. It's just like, okay, now I got to do this. Now I got to do that. I remember calling contractors and they would just be like, hang up on me because I would ask them all these damn questions and try to figure out, how do I do this? Like, can you help me? What's going on? Like, I'm asking, I need help. And they're like, they'd hang up and like never call me back or anything like that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it progressed in that.
Yeah, but I mean, what a lesson did you learn? I mean, you made a little bit of money, that $3,000, and it was 30,000 less than you expected. But I mean, there's no course that you could pay 30 grand for and learn what you experienced, over that 6-month period, is there?
No. So that first house, I bought it on August 6th, and I'll always remember that is because my son was born on April 7th.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went in, bought it the first day. Heart racing, right? Just pounding, just going in to sign the documents on the dotted line for your first closing. And I'm like, oh, I remember looking at it. My hand was shaking, going across the paper. Right. So I was like, I don't know, 10 o'clock in the morning or something. We signed, my hand was shaking and they were like, gave me the keys. And so off to the town, where the house was at, this little townhouse. And went in there and started doing demo, had everything ripped out and pulling stuff and piling up. I'm waiting for a dumpster to be delivered and things like that. And go to bed that night, April 6th, April 7th at 3:30 in the morning. My wife wakes me up and says, hey, we're having a baby today. Our water broke. And so it was just kind of like everything was coming down. It's like, all right, we got to make this happen. So that was pretty, it was a pretty, hey, there's no failing in this aspect. We have to go. We got to put one foot in front of the other, take the next step, just keep learning, just keep pushing and just keep growing on this stuff. But
man, what a season.
Yeah, it was definitely.
Hey, so that was, now 11 years ago. What did the progression look like from there? Again, as you got ramped up, you did your first flip.
Yep. Ramped up, did my first flip. Then I met a guy and we started doing some deals together for the next 3 years, built up a company. Then we split and then got with another guy. Learned a lot through that, learned a lot about marketing, learned a lot about talking on the phone with sellers, all that stuff. Those tool belt skills of just communicating, sales. The marketing is the biggest thing. Marketing and the sales are the two biggest things on how to find deals, how to talk to them, how to get them under contract, kind of all that stuff. And then went from there and then got in another, left that partnership, got into another partnership. We did that for 3 years. Then we went our separate ways. And then, now we're here today. I run my operation with a couple acquisitions agents, couple VAs, project manager.
Yeah. So I guess what does that look like? Like big picture, what does business look like this last year?
Yeah, as far as people or as far as deal wise?
Yeah, deal wise, and then the staff to support that.
Yeah, so deal wise this year's it's been down a little bit this year. I mean, our profit per deal is up. Been going through some changes and some different personnel factors, but getting that back up and running. But I do everything from the house. All my acquisitions are virtual, and we're just building a business, a lifestyle business. I'm not here to try to do 900 million deals. I want to do enough deals, have a strategic plan on what I want in life, and keep focusing, keep hitting that, keep doing deals, and making that stuff happen.
Okay, great. And you said acquisition. So what does that mean for the layperson that's maybe not in real estate?
Yeah, so that's a salesperson that's on the phone. They're always calling, following up with the sellers that call in from our marketing that we do, get them on the phone, and then I coach them up to identify deals to make sure that things are processing and moving along. So that's kind of how that operation works.
Okay. And then you mentioned VAs also.
Yeah, VAs are mostly cold callers, and I have a personal assistant on that aspect too. So she does anywhere from like insurance on properties, utilities on all the houses, gets all the closings set up, follows up with sellers, follows up with buyers, make sure that stuff's straight, wires coming in, going out, make sure those are going to the correct spots. She makes sure our marketing gets out and deployed correctly between our cold calling. She manages those, our direct mail, make sure those gets out, tracking all of that stuff. Anything that I need, hey, I need you to do X, Y, Z.
Right.
She's on it.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
I guess how far along were you before you started hiring, and who was that first person?
well, I in the first company with my partner that we had, I was hiring at that point. And so we brought on acquisitions agents. I never hired a project manager or anything like that, but I was more directed on the sales side. So I hired acquisitions agents and took care of that aspect. So since 2012, 13, something like that, I can't remember exact date. I think it was 12 that we started bringing on people to make the phone calls and go through that aspect of it.
Okay. Yeah, I think most entrepreneurs that start from zero and build up, they usually have a hard time letting go of some facet of their business when they start to outsource and hire.
Yeah.
Is there anything in particular that stood out to you as like, I just do this better than anybody else. I don't want to hire this out.
Yeah. So like I said, lifestyle is the main thing that I'm trying to build. And I know if I'm the best, like I've read enough books, listened to enough people to understand. I mean, this is not me making this stuff up, but 80% of somebody's efforts is better than 100% of mine because it allows me to go do other things. And if they're doing 80% as good as me when they're on the phone, great. But if I can only be on the phone for an hour a day, it doesn't make sense because I'm talking to a project manager. I'm talking to this. I'm making sure the business. I'm talking to lenders. I'm the other aspects of the business that go on. If she spends 100% of her time on that, she's going to do better than me, than what I'm able to do. And so I really was like looking at that and going, okay, like I never really had any animosity. I want to pay them to get the work done. I don't feel like I'm hoarder. I never felt that way as far as about like getting on and them taking from me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was able to like see, okay, you can do 100 calls. And in the beginning, they would do their calls and I would do my calls. And so we'd get double the production, right? And then you hire the next person to come in and take over that aspect of it. Now you manage those. You spend 15 minutes of your time managing those two callers. They're doing 100% of their efforts. Add those up, say that's 160% of what you can do by yourself. So I see the production, I see the phone calls, I see the conversations increasing. And then, hire a project manager. Well, you're managing this and you got all this other stuff going on. You can't be out there and completely managing construction as well. You probably won't ever have a life. So how much is it going to cost to have somebody come in on that aspect and put the investment into those people to allow them to go out and do the job? And you can spend 20 minutes a day with them and figure out, all right, hey, this is what I want to do. So now I've just tripled my efforts, but I've taken my time to 35 minutes a day just with those two people. And I'm able to get, 24 hours of work out of them. I was able to see that. And so it never really bothered me to go and pay. And the other thing is, I mean, when I got into the crypto, like if I would have been doing the project management on that, like you never have time to think outside of what's going on in your business because you got all these other fires that you're putting out. And so by hiring him allowed me to think, all right, what's going on in life and business and stuff and in the world that I can maybe take advantage of. And I saw the crypto stuff and I was able to get in early on some of this stuff just because I was able to have the time. And crypto's gone through right now is the 28th of September, but crypto's gone up on a huge run last, 6-8 months ago, has continually to fall. But I got in right now 2.5 years ago, and still it wasn't as early as some other people, but I'm still up more than what I've paid my project manager for 2 years. I'm still up over that. So
Right.
even at the bottom, and so that's, I would never have been in that position if I didn't have the project manager, or if I didn't have the sales reps, or if I didn't have the dispo guy or the cold callers. If I'm trying to do it all, I wouldn't get half the stuff I get done.
Yeah. No, that's so powerful that you generated the freedom enough to be able to get yourself out of the weeds, get yourself out of the day to day, and actually see opportunities that are there. Otherwise, they're just flying right over your head like everybody else that's got their head down
Right.
into the day to day, 24/7. I mean, when you
Absolutely.
own a business, it's not 24 hours anymore. It's every waking moment sometimes until you finally are able to delegate some of those critical roles out and free yourself up. So
Exactly.
well done on that. Yeah. Okay. Well, we're just about out of time here. I'm going to transition to a couple other fun things here. But before we do fully transition out, I guess, one question I like to ask is if you could pull your younger self aside, maybe when you were maybe 10 years ago or your 20-year-old self, I'll let you pick which one. What would be the most meaningful advice that you would turn around and give them right now?
Well, so I have 2 kids right now, and one's 11 and one's 8, and they're growing up. So like I'm starting to think about those conversations that I'm going to have with them, and I've already told them, I said, listen, I don't expect you to go to college if you don't want to. If you want to pursue a career in something that you enjoy, do it. But I also want you to experience things in life too, and so I'm trying to show that. But if I were to take myself, if I go back to 20, I would say, Kyle, pay attention to market trends and where things are going in life, and try to get in front of those trends. Because I remember talking about drop shipping, and it was like 2005. I was in college. I'm sitting with this guy in my dorm rooms and stuff. We're talking about drop shipping, and he's like, you can do X, Y, Z, da 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 da. And right now, look at that. Right now, if you in the past 15 years, if you had companies and you built on the internet at that time, you would have been multimillionaires. And so that's one of the reasons why I also thought about crypto. Okay, what's going on? I hired a guy. I paid him like $300 to have a conversation with, just to teach me and like, what is crypto? Because you hear all this stuff and you create these emotions, feelings, judgments in your mind off of the knowledge that you have, what little knowledge that you have of something. And so when I first heard about Bitcoin, I was like, Bitcoin, right? And I wasn't thinking about that. But now when I hear something new, I don't go, it's just that. I go, what is that? So be inquisitive of what's going on around you in the world, like big things. And so I'm always, I think that's what I would say for the drop shipping stuff. I should have been like, Kyle, you don't know anything about the computers. You can learn this stuff and like have a vision of this internet thing going and being really, really big. This could be the ticket, right? You don't have to go working out and doing all that stuff. So
Yeah.
that's what I would say. And so when I saw the crypto, I was thinking about, and this is what I think about, having these conversations with yourself, talking to yourself, because I believe in manifestation. You bring things into your life that you think about. I was at that time when I thought when the crypto came in, I was like, all right, Kyle, what can we be involved in that's going to be big, that's going to be this? And then just things start popping up. This crypto. Why do I keep seeing this? And being very aware of, why do I see that? Why do I see that? Why do I see that? Why don't I just be a little bit more inquisitive and ask some questions and try to understand more instead of having opinion in this stuff where I don't. Because I could have given, if I would have been in 2017, I think that's when it was, 17, 18, something like that. Like crypto had just hit like 17% on Bitcoin. And one of my partners was like, we should go into Bitcoin. We should do this. And I'm like, nah, man, I don't want to be involved with that stuff. If I'd have just, it's taken me some time to get to this point, but if I'd have just been like open and just looked at it more and tried to understand, and I think that's a lot in life, if we just tried to understand more in life instead of project what our feelings are and project our insecurities and things from our life onto other people and other things, I think it'd be a lot better and come from understanding.
Yeah, for sure. It sounds like you've grown a new muscle in terms of like being able to discern. Like obviously, if you jump into any early start project or any, be a first adopter of everything, you'll probably go broke. But first, one, having the bandwidth to do so, and then two, like not having the reaction from your past of like, yeah, that crypto, that's that newfangled thing that that'll never work, and you write it off, or I don't have time for it. But actually having a little bit of like, well, this keeps popping up. It is a new thing, and you know what? I'm going to go figure this out. I'm going to spend a little bit of time, even a little bit of money. I'm going to pay somebody a few dollars for their time as an expert to teach me about this thing that I'm interested in. Yeah. Now, if this expert that you trusted said, no, I'm getting out, like that's no good, or avoid, completely, you might have had a different path, but he actually showed you that this is a real thing and this is how it works and here's the risks. Now you can decide to play or not.
Exactly.
That's great.
So I've been doing that like in my early career. I don't think it was that. Also, one thing that I've learned is to trust my gut with people. And I think I need to, instill that more in my kids. When you have gut feelings, gut instincts, it's probably because of something. And I can go back and look at things where I didn't necessarily listen to that gut instinct. And I had questions and I wasn't 100 and I kind of went with it. I'm like, well, I'll take a flyer on this one, right? I didn't end up the way I wanted it to end up. So I think vibrations in the world, those are there and you can feel them.
Yeah. There's there is so much more about that than we've been taught and that we understand in our society. So I think that's definitely wise advice.
Yeah, that's a whole nother rabbit hole, right? That podcast can go on for days. But yeah, just being very aware and listening and not throwing judgment to anything and being understanding. And I think that goes a lot into relationships too. Mm-hmm. I mean, just be understanding where other people are coming from. Somebody cuts me off on the road. I'm like, oh, what happened to them today? What's going on in their life? Instead of being this mother,
Yeah. Which most of us do naturally.
I mean, if they hit me, that might come out, right? But if they cut me off and I'm paying attention and, it might be a little, it's a little different story. But
yeah. Well, good. Well, that sounds like also a muscle that you've learned to grow, because I don't think that's anybody's natural instinct is to go that like, I wonder what's going on in their world that made them react that way.
I heard a quote one time I don't know if I'm going to say it right, but when like shit's going wrong, right? Center yourself and ask yourself why. Like, why is X, Y, Z happening? Like, sit down. Like, if you can sit down and be like, okay, all this stuff is happening to me because this. Oh, because of this. Why? Instead of just being so reactive to everything. And I feel like I'm pretty calm most of the time. I don't get too fired up with things that go wrong or things that happen. And I just, okay, what's the next step? Not to say that I'm not upset about it, but I can't let that emotion control my next steps.
I think that's great. I could have had that conversation with you a while back, and that would have helped me a ton. Oh man. Well, here, I don't want to let you go before asking you this, and this is getting into the fun stuff that you and I both, I think, like to do, and that's the travel side of things. If you could go really anywhere in the world for just 60 days, where would you go?
Oh, just 60 days?
Yeah.
Well, I'm a big skier, so it'd probably be, I'd pick a winter month, and I don't know if I would stick just to one spot though, but I don't even know if I could stick to one spot.
You have to. 60 days, man.
It definitely would not be on a beach. I would be bored in 3, maybe 2 days. So maybe the Alps, check out those mountains and through that area. That one comes to mind. And the other thing would be like to go to Japan and like live the old world culture there, back in the mountains, and where everything is just no electronics. I think that would be an experience of a lifetime to have that and just do it. I think it would be pretty cool.
I like that idea.
Because those people are so structured with what they do. Everything has a meaning. Everything has a purpose. Everything, the wind blows this. I would just like to be connected into something like that and just feel it. So I think that would be the Alps, and that would be my 60 days. Either one of those.
Okay, I'll take it. All right. So again, this might be a different trip, but besides clothing and your normal toiletries and things that you bring, what's one thing that you never leave home without when you're traveling?
I mean, I say my phone only because it's part of the work. I'm able to like travel and do that stuff. But honestly, I could leave everything behind. It's me personally. I mean, I'm going to bring my wife, and the kids and stuff, but I don't need anything. I don't need to have a certain aspect, or I don't need to have a certain something. So yeah, my skis. that's the one thing I'm not going to leave behind if I'm going there. But that'd be it.
All right, awesome. All right, I think we'll start to wrap up here. We're a little over time, so I apologize for that. But I think this is a great conversation, and got to learn a little bit about you. And I think there's some really lost one of my earpieces there, but yeah, I just really enjoyed the conversation with you here. And I do have one other question here that I think I'd love for you to share with our listeners here. What would you say is like one, basic, simple action or tip that you could share that somebody can implement and it would help them to expand their boundaries or their mindset today?
Be open. Just that's it. Like, don't have a closed mindset of something can't work. Like, that's the worst thing I think you can do, is to be like, oh, that doesn't work. When there's hundreds of people that already do it and are successful with it, there's a way to make it happen, right? That's what I would say. Just be very open and open the mindset of being able to accomplish things.
I think that's perfect. Thank you. That's good advice.
Yeah, man.
How can our guests here find you or connect with you?
They can check me out on Facebook. They can go to, I think I'm just Kyle Miller on Facebook. And then also I have Instagram. It's Kyle Miller _.
Kyle Miller with an underscore at the end.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you. Thank you very much for joining me here today. And I'll just say, for you listening, think about one big takeaway or big idea that Kyle shared from today's show, and, take some time with it and write it down, and, whatever ideas come to you, just sit there with it. From there, just take some action. Take it big or small. And one thing I appreciate about Kyle is once he has an idea, he has a plan, he takes action and just talks to people. He asks questions and he figures it out. And so I'd encourage everybody listening here to do the same. Take some kind of action, big or small, and continue to expand your boundaries.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thanks again, Kyle, for joining us here today. This was a pleasure, and hopefully we'll do this again here in the coming months.
Thanks, brother. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Talk soon.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.